Hey guys, what's up? It's another command line here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Smash Bros Hax on your 3DS. Recently an update came out that patched a lot of the previously working exploits, and this one's a little more difficult than your standard 2-pack, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a video on it. So to get started, you're going to need to download Smash Bros Hax here. You're going to need to download CTRWN Beacon tool. And then if you haven't done, Homebrew before, or if you don't have this on your 3DS's SD card, go ahead and download the Homebrew Starter Kit or the Home Menu executable. I recommend this because it includes utilities that you probably want to use. And then lastly, well, not lastly, you need to download Other App Payload. Go ahead and make sure it matches your 3DS version. I already have this all downloaded. Again, make sure you click this link here. And then lastly, if you don't already have this, you're going to need DevKit ARM. Go ahead, come here and download this. So after I have all of those things, I already have them all in a folder here. You're going to go ahead and rename your Other App Payload here to Smash Payload, and that's going to make things easier when you're compiling this program here. So after you've done all that, you're going to go ahead and go into here. Let me go ahead and open up a terminal window. So once you're in here, I actually did a previous compile of this, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. So this is what you're going to have in this directory here. You're going to have a makefile, a readme, and a source folder. You're going to go ahead and run make. You're going to get a few warnings, don't worry about it. And you're going to get this here, this build file. When you open it, it should look like this. So looking at this name here, we're going to have to rename it. GitHub adds this -master extension. So let's see here. Go ahead, just rename the file, delete that -master part, and now what we need to do is move it into our bin directory. So this is going to require administrative permissions, sudo move ctrwn beacon /bin, type in your password, there you go. So now if you were to run that, you can see you get this output here, which tells you that you installed it properly. So now that you've done that, you can go ahead and move out of that directory and into the 3DS Smash Bros Hax master. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up too because I did a previous, well, looks like I can't do that. So the first thing you're going to do in here is you're going to export devkit arm, and that's basically going to be a path to where your devkit arm directory is. That's what I had you download here. Mine is devkit pro, devkit arm. There we go. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and run, well, again, I need to run make clean. You guys don't have to do that. Make payload path is equal to / smash payload.bin. And again, this is going to be the path to where your payload is on your 3DS's SD card. That's why we renamed this here. Go ahead and enter there. It's going to go ahead and compile it for you. Now you have this pcap file, or pcap directory rather, with all these pcap files in there. So what you're going to need to do is determine which version of the game you're running, whether you have European, Japanese, or United States, and which version of the game you're running as far as 1.1, 1.2, 1.1.2. That's the latest version here. So I'm going to be using this file. So yeah, just keep that in mind, which one you choose. You can move it aside, it's up to you. We're going to use that to actually trigger the payload. And I'm not sure if you need these files. I used them. I found that it works. If you come to the actual instructions here, it doesn't say anything about these files, but I moved them over to my SD card and it works fine. So if I were you, I would just do that. If someone in the comments wants to correct me, go ahead. But again, make sure it matches your version here. So if you're running 1.1.2, the USA version of the game like I am, you're going to just select these 4 files and throw them on the root of your 3DS's SD card. again, do the same for smash payload.bin, and yeah, and as well, you're also going to need to move the Homebrew starter kit over. So you're going to move boot 3ds.bin, or I forget what it is, and then you're going to have a 3ds directory on there. And once you've done all that, we can move on to the next step. I've already done it, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip ahead. Hey guys, I'm back. Tried to install some screen recording software on my other machine, and it turns out there isn't any. So instead of having you guys see, horrible screen recording full of graphical problems, I'll just do everything over SSH. And the more I think about it, since most of it's done over, a terminal, may as well just use SSH. So before we get started, you're going to need to download the source code for AnotherCommandLine, since that's what we're going to be using to trigger the exploit on the 3ds. However, we need to apply a patch first. So again, go ahead and grab the source code here, run this command on your in your terminal. It should work just fine. You may get prompted for this. When I was trying to compile AnotherCommandLine, it wanted me to install libnl, so I'll be showing you guys how to do that. If you don't get prompted, then don't worry about it. And then lastly, you're going to need to grab the AI replay-ng patch from earlier, and we're going to be applying that. So let's go ahead and open up our terminal here, and let me go ahead and get connected here to my other machine. Okay. My bad. Oops. There we are. So, as you can see, I'm using Kali. Doesn't really matter which OS you're using as long as it's not Windows. I believe it has to be a Linux system, but yeah, as long as you have that, shouldn't be an issue. So let me go ahead and change the directory that I have everything out here. So, as you can see, I have our pcat file from earlier that I told you to set aside. I have the libnl directory that we downloaded, AnotherCommandLine directory, which is all the source code for that, and then I still have the 3ds Smash Bros Hax master, which we'll grab the patch from. So first of all, let's go ahead and compile libnl. This is going to take a little bit, so I guess I'm just going to go ahead and skip forward, so I'll be back. So after all that's been compiled, you're going to go ahead and run make install, sudo make install, my bad. And when you run that, it's going to go ahead and install it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to copy the patch file over from our Smash Bros Hax directory. So go ahead and do that. We're going to copy that to our AnotherCommandLine directory because we're going to apply that patch. Let's go ahead and go there now. I'm going to go ahead and patch it. So should look something like this. Now you're going to type in the file to patch. It should be this file here. I've already patched it, but if you haven't, it shouldn't prompt you with this. Since I've already patched it, I'm going to say no. So yeah, once you get that patch, you can go ahead and run make, and just wait for that to compile, and I'll be back when that's done. So now that we've compiled that, we can go ahead and run sudo make install. That's going to go ahead and install it for us. So once we've done that, what we need to do is locate our wireless device that we're going to use to trigger the payload, or launch the payload on the 3DS. So to do that, we're going to run sudo config, and here we have our wireless device here, WLAN 0. You can figure out which one it is by your internet address here. Typically, that's the one that you're using as your primary wireless card. So if it's 192.168.1. whatever, or 10.0.1. whatever, then it's probably going to be the device that you want to use. Keep in mind, ETH0 isn't going to work since it's Ethernet. You need a wireless card to do this on. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, now that we've determined our wireless device, is we're going to run sudo -ng start WLAN 0, which is our device, and then the channel we want it to run on, which is 6. Let's see here. Well, it looks like actually I'm going to have to switch over here, since doing this kills it as a normal device. Since we're putting it in monitoring mode, you can't use it to connect to the internet. So what happened here is my SSH session just froze because yeah, it's not connected to a network anymore. So I'm going to switch over to my phone. It's going to be really crappy, but you guys are just going to have to do with it, I guess. Sorry about that. I'll be right back. Alright, so here we go. I'm over on my other machine here. Again, I'm going to apologize right now for the bad quality, but trust me, this is a lot better than the screen recorder that is the other option, obviously. So let me go ahead and start up that device again. I have it in my terminal history, so I don't have to type it in here. There we go. Actually, that's stop. Sorry. There we go. So that's going to go ahead and start up our wireless device here. As you can see, it's going there. So let me go ahead and type in the command that we're going to use to actually trigger the payload on the 3DS. So let me go ahead and set this down here. Alright, so I'm back here. Sorry about that. So basically, if we take a look at this command here, well, we're using that utility that we compiled earlier, and the problem with it, the reason we had to apply that patch is because when we defined the host here, which this shouldn't be a B, this should actually be an H. Let me go ahead and change that. When I defined the host, it was going to compare that MAC address to our MAC address, which I can tell you right now it's not going to match. So it wouldn't run the command. That's what the patch did. So let me go ahead and explain a little bit of this. So we're running the utility as root, interactive, and then the -r is giving it a link to our pcap file that I told you to set aside earlier. So Smash Bros _game USA version 1.1.2, and then we have our host here, which is the MAC address it's going to be spoofing as, and then the -x is the number of packets per second. The GitHub page says it should be at least 10. If you do -x 10, it's going to do like 9 packets per second, I've noticed, whereas if you do 11, you're just going to be safe. And then lastly, we have our wireless device. So if we go ahead and we hit return here, it's going to ask us if this is the packet we want to use. I want to say yes, and then there we go. So let me go ahead and put in my SD card here into my 3DS. Alright, so I'm back, got the SD card in there, still have this running. So let's go ahead and turn on our 3DS and go ahead and launch this payload. Again, I apologize for the poor quality. So keep in mind that when you're using this, at least to initially trigger the payload and get into, Homebrew, you do need to have this running in the background. So it makes it kind of impractical to use it outside of your own home. But also remember that there's other methods that require you to, get into Homebrew first before you can use them. So this could be one of those where it's kind of impractical the first time, but afterwards you can find an easier way of getting into Homebrew, if that makes any sense. Let's go ahead here, come to group, and as you're going to see, it freezes almost instantly. There you go. Got Homebrew. There you are. You're in Homebrew. So you got all your standard utilities here, your theme manager. Some of these I installed myself. So let's go ahead and test this here. Let's use this game. So as you can see, it works just fine. So there you are. That's your Homebrew running on the latest version. If you guys want to see some programming for this, potentially, if you want to see how to program an application for the 3DS, go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know that's what you want. I had some ideas of maybe doing that, but I'm not going to do it unless other people want to see it, obviously. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead, leave a like, and make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.